Hey everyone, it's Theo from Spectrum Gardening. So I contacted someone I know from social media and I asked him if I could do a tour of his farm. And his pepper farm is actually located at the Yellowhouse Farm farmhouse in Maple Ridge. I'm here with Rain. And Rain, can you tell us a little bit about your farm, about your cafe, and kind of what's going on in your property?
Sure. Well, Yellowhouse Farm is right here in Wannock. It's halfway between Maple and Ridge and Mission. We grow a variety of crops, over 250, all certified organic. We try to practice no-till biodiversity regenerative farming, so we don't till the soil. We don't use any chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, or even fertilizer. Everything's hand-sown, hand-picked. And all the produce, the varieties of crops and seeds, are carefully chosen by our team of chefs in the cafe. We have a lovely little restaurant right here on the farm. It's called Sunflower Cafe. It's all outdoors. We have these lovely gazebos and a team of fine dining chefs who then take all the crops that they've chosen in the past winter, and they make these beautiful dishes from all the crops that we harvest here. Everything's harvested same day and brought to the cafe for their service.
So you were talking about a lot of the crops that harvested here are used in your cafe. What's the percentage that you use in your cafe that is grown here?
I would say 90 to 95%. We create a plan with the chefs at the very beginning of the year with specific menu items in mind, so they do their best to build the menus based on what's growing in the garden. So for instance, we would never have olives on a dish or other things that couldn't be grown in this climate. However, we do try to stretch that just a little bit and try to grow things that we're not supposed to grow in this climate by using different methods, using the greenhouses to grow some tropical plants as well as an array of herbs.
Sounds like it's really a true farm-to-table setup.
It is. Well, the chefs like to say that instead of bringing farm to table, they brought the tables to the farm.
Well, thank you for your time. We're going to go check out Brian's peppers, and we're also going to probably check out little parts of your farm if you're okay with that too.
Absolutely.
So we talked with Rain a couple minutes ago about where the Yellowhouse Farm is located and kind of what they're doing here. So now I'm with Brian from Weingärtner Micro Farms, and we're in front of his pepper patch. So Brian, can you tell us a little bit what's going on behind here, what kind of peppers you're growing, kind of what got you into peppers, and kind of like, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so my name's Brian. I started growing chili peppers to somewhat of a bigger scale about 2 years ago in my backyard with about 20 plants or so, and it was really amazing, and I decided I want to go even bigger because I grew up in the American Southwest, in New Mexico and Arizona, and their main crop down there is chili. And I mean, one of the most famous questions from New Mexico is when you go to a restaurant, they ask if you want red or green chili, and usually you say Christmas style, because then you can get both. And so having that chili has always been, and spicy food is just, part of my makeup from growing up. And so this last year I thought, well, I want to go outside of my backyard and kind of looking at options between renting or leasing land and finding things that were a little too big what I was used to. I've really into the idea of regenerative agriculture, no-till farming, and taking that idea with over 35 varieties of chili peppers and experimenting with trying to get things to grow here and bring those flavors from the Southwest up here to Canada.
Sounds like you've got a long history. My biggest question is what's the difference between red and green chili down in where you're from?
So
is it just the ripeness of the peppers,
so it's the ripeness of peppers. Like, that's one thing that a lot of people might not realize is pretty much any chili can start green. It's usually once it goes ripe is when you get the reds and then even sometimes yellows or oranges. So when you see that red, usually a red pepper, it's not necessarily spicier than a green pepper, because there are super spicy green peppers and there's actually mild red peppers. But it's more the ripeness and the sweetness of the pepper starting to kind of like break down and build those sugars, and has a really, so reds have a nice, smooth, robust flavor to them, while greens are usually a little more of a bright flavor to them.
So Brian, you were talking about a second ago of how you emailed Rain. I know a lot of people out there, they want to get into farming, they want to get into growing, but they don't have any money and they don't really know how to do it. Right. So did you know Rain before you emailed him, or how did it all work out?
So actually, I didn't know Rain before. You think I would though, because actually, fun fact, he's an opera singer, and I'm a high school band teacher.
So it's the same circles.
Yeah, but I actually didn't know him before. When they started the cafe here, I did order takeout a couple times, and so I kind of knew there's this organic farm a little ways away from where I live, like about a 20-minute drive, 10 to 20-minute drive from where I live. So, you know, same thing that Theo just mentioned. It's finances, space, trying to figure out if you're going to buy land, lease land. It's pretty daunting, especially for me, brand new, trying to just make that step from my backyard to maybe a little bit bigger than that. So Rain here, he has 17 acres of beautiful land.
That's a lot of land.
Yeah. And so I just, you know, it's kind of like a Hail Mary, shot in the dark. I just sent him an email. I was like, hey, I ordered takeout from you. Delicious food. I love your philosophy about your farm. Do you have extra land, and can we work something out? And I told him my dream of growing chili peppers in Canada. And so he was like, yeah, I think that'd be a great collaboration. Let's work something out. So I came down, we had a chat, and essentially we worked out a deal where I'm actually doing kind of a labor for land trade. So that's what I've been working part-time, and sort of my hours are in exchange for rent for the space I grow on. And it's been a really good beneficial relationship, because I've gotten the land to grow my stuff. I've worked with Rain and the other farmers on the property to start learning more about farming that I didn't know before. And I've even actually been able to sell my peppers back to him for the cafe and for the CSA. So, you know, I think it's been working really well all around, and it's another avenue where if you don't have land, maybe just ask. Someone might be willing to share. Yeah.
Just reach out, send an email, give him a call. It sounds like it's been really beneficial for not only you, but also Rain, with you being here.
Right, totally, yeah.
So I know Brian's got his favorite peppers growing here. I know he's got his spiciest ones, and I know he's got some ones that do really well in northern climates. So we're going to dive a little bit more into that next. So Brian, we're with your favorite pepper over here. Can you tell me a little bit about it, the name of it, the Scoville, and like why you like it so much?
Sure. Yeah, so in this row here, I have the Hatch Valley Joe E. Parker chili. And it's called the Joe E. Parker because it's named after one of the guys that helped develop it in New Mexico. Because in the Hatch Valley region, chili peppers are their main crop. And so the New Mexico State University, they have a Chili Pepper Institute where they're always crossbreeding and developing different types of peppers.
It's really in their culture then, eh?
Yeah. So if you know, maybe from the grocery store, Anaheim chilies are kind of the standard green chili pepper that are most commercially available. And they're also just a variety of the New Mexican chilies as well. So these are very similar to Anaheim's, but I find they have a bit more savoriness to their flavor. And
kind of sweetness, or?
Yeah, so when you roast the chili, so usually fire roast them, get the skins off, and it gives them, yeah, kind of sweet, savory. Like they're not as bitter as say like a green bell pepper.
Okay.
They're just a bit more smoother of a flavor, even when they're green. And then when they go red, they get really sweet, really, really nice flavor to them. And these ones here, the Joe E. Parkers, are in the Scoville range of about 1,000 to 3,000. So it's, you know, definitely has a bit of a kick to it, but it's not as hot as a jalapeno. It just adds that nice boost of flavor with a nice warm heat to your palate.
Without burning your face off.
Without burning your face off, yeah. Yeah, so it's just a nice, I don't know, you just eat it and you're like, oh, that was so delicious, I want more.
Yeah, but you're not screaming in pain at the same time.
Exactly.
So Brian, we were talking about how you like to grow peppers with more flavors in them, and not really burn your face off, like with reapers or things like that, or ghost peppers. What is the hot, like we're sitting in front of your hottest pepper you're growing right now. Yep. What is the Scoville of that? And like, what's the flavor profile?
Cool. All right, so yeah, this one's my hottest one. It's about 30 to 50,000 Scoville on the Scoville rating, so it definitely has a kick to it. It's a Peruvian pepper called the Ahi Amarillo. So chili is usually just the name like for Mexicans and a lot of South American or Central Americans say chili, whereas in South America they usually say ahi. So it's just a different variety. Again, there's like thousands of types of chili peppers out there, or ahi peppers out there. So the Ahi Amarillo, right now these are still pretty green. They take quite a while to ripen. They're like a 90+ day pepper to get going. I started these really early, and they're just getting going at the end of the season.
When did you start them? Because you're saying you started really early.
Yeah, so I started planting in late December, early January.
That is early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so whereas my other chilies, I've gotten a few small harvests out of them throughout the season. These ones I've only picked, I actually haven't even picked any Ahi Amarillos yet. I'm still waiting for these to go.
And so, they'll turn yellow or red?
These ones will turn yellow. So actually Amarillo is Peruvian for yellow.
Oh, okay.
So Amarillos will go yellow. I have some Ahi Limos, which turn bright yellow, and Ahi Ricos, which are red. And they're usually used either in like a ceviche, really kind of have aid in like a kind of a bright citrus tangy flavor. They have like a really kind of fruity flavor to them on top of the spiciness. And there's also like a really popular Peruvian sauce that's kind of like a potato dish that's really common from Peru that these peppers are used in.
So Brian, we're at one of your rows now, and all these chilies are from northern New Mexico. And you know our climate in the West Coast is typically called the wet coast because of how much rain and how cold it can get.
Right.
But you were saying this plant here and this whole row has been your most productive this year. How many harvests have you been getting out of it, and why do you think it's your most productive?
Yeah, so one of the things that you just mentioned, I was looking at in northern New Mexico, a lot of the chilies come from a higher elevation, so they are used to a shorter season. And so I have these ones here are called Espanola Improved. So again, they were the Espanola pepper tweaked a bit with crossbreeding and you know, selective breeding at the New Mexico State University. There's others like that are from various little microclimates around New Mexico. And so they're used to growing in about like a 60 to maybe 90 day time range.
And that would be 60 days green to 90 days red or yellow, right?
Right, yeah. And these ones have been incredibly prolific for me. I've gotten about 4 or 5 harvests. I've helped pick chilies from my chili field for the Yellowhouse Farm CSA, and I've given them mostly these Espanolas. They just, you know, week after week I was able to pull in like 40 to 60 chilies off of these.
Oh wow.
And then the next week they would have grown a bunch more, and even then I'm already looking again and I've already got another bunch about ready to go. Nice big thick green peppers. So yeah, this plant has done really well this season, and I definitely think it's a good one for here in BC, and that I'm going to keep growing in the future too.
So you were talking about that you've already pulled off this plant quite a few times. You're pulling it off it when it's still green, right?
Right, yeah. So for this one I'm doing green chili. Again, it's just a flavor profile difference, sort of like a green bell pepper versus a red bell pepper. They just, you know, they might be a little bit of a brighter flavor, but still very savory, very delicious. And since it's like so prolific and easy to grow, then that's when I'm just able to kind of keep it going and keep pulling off of. The rest of my other plants I might harvest once or twice, and then they're done for the season.
Yeah. So Brian, we've talked a lot about your exotic peppers that you're growing. And typically people don't know as much about peppers as you do. So what are some varieties that you're growing in this row that people may have already heard of?
All right, so here I have a lot of jalapenos. Hopefully almost everyone's heard of a jalapeno. And I have some varieties that are doing really well. I've got New Mex, orange spice, lemon spice. Those are peppers that turn to an orange or a yellow, and they've grown super well this year. And then this plant right here is called the Santa Fe, which it's kind of related to jalapeno or Hungarian wax in that range. Yeah. And the heat range isn't that high, so if you're more into a mild pepper, this one's around 500 to 700 Scoville. And if you notice here, they have nice, about like 4-inch long white peppers. But what's really cool that I love about these is that they eventually slowly go to an orange and then to red, and they mature from the bottom up. So you get peppers, if you do a big harvest, you can have a nice multicolored salsa or pickled peppers that taste delicious and will last for a long time.
So you were saying you have a multicolored salsa, so you can pick them both red and yellow.
Yeah.
Is there any flavor difference between them, or?
There's maybe like a slight flavor difference, but these ones, they're not too bad. Like if you take like the unripe white one versus like a more ripe orange or red, the flavor profile is pretty similar across the range with this plant.
So we were talking about your hottest peppers earlier. Those are probably not your peppers for everyday people.
Yeah.
And how hot is this one?
So this one, it's relatively mild. It's in the 500 to 700 range.
Okay. And for people that aren't familiar with the Scoville rating, a bell pepper is 0, and then it goes up from there. So the higher the number, the hotter the pepper. And so earlier you talked about roasting chilies. Tell me about what is kind of in front of us right now, and what you're planning to do with it.
All right. So growing up in New Mexico, anytime during chili season when you go shopping at the grocery store, they always had a chili roaster outside, because these chilies, they taste best when they're freshly flame roasted. And so what I have here is a little bit of a smaller scale chili roaster. It's from Arizona Chili Roasters down near Tucson, Arizona. And it's a nice hand crank propane burner. And so what I'll do, I'll be firing this up. We'll spend a few minutes with them roasting. We'll get a nice savory, smooth flavor to them. It's not so much about cooking the chili, it's more about just getting the skins burned off, and so that they're just really good to chew, eat, and a very delicious pepper.
So it took a few minutes to roast them all up, and trust me, even when standing back all the way where the camera is, I could smell them, and they smell really good. So what's the reason for roasting them, and how would you use them like after they're roasted?
Yeah, so part of the reason of roasting the chilies is the skins on them are a little bit tough, and we want to make sure we get the skins off and just kind of focus on the flesh of the chili pepper. So roasting is a fast, easy way to do that. It also does add a bit of smokiness to it that just tastes really good. And yeah, and so afterwards you can almost anything. You can chop them up, put them in scrambled eggs, you can make enchiladas, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Very versatile.
Very versatile, yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to even be a traditional Mexican dish. Any kind of food. I mean, I know people who've done green chili pizza and all kinds of stuff that it just adds such a good flavor.
You roasting them like that kind of reminds me of what I do with shishitos. I pick the shishitos green, I throw them in a fry pan, I blister them up just like what you did with these chilies, and then I add salt. So, thanks for watching. And Brian, thank you so much for your time, for taking us around your farm and explaining everything about the chilies.
You're welcome. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming out. Thanks for showcasing Yellowhouse Farm and the Weingärtner Micro Farm.
If you did like this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up. We'd really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, and there will be links to both farms in the video description below.